Last week I announced that the stripers were done with the Delta and they were heading back to the bay. I guess as soon as they heard that, they decided to, or at least a few of them decided to turn around, come back into the Delta, or the ones that were here started biting, because this last week we saw a big increase in the striper activity. Largemouth bass are starting to roll into their summer patterns. A lot of fish being caught. Everybody's catching fish. They may not be the size that we're looking for, the quality, but the numbers are on the increase. Everything's looking good right now. We're going to get some hot weather coming in, so let's take a look at a few pictures. We'll get right into the weekly report. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta. This is the weekly fishing report for June 11th. Let's start off with some news from the San Joaquin Bassmasters High School Youth Fishing Club. We're talking about supporting a couple of their teams that are going to Kentucky that have qualified, had to work their way in here. They've qualified to get to fish the Youth National Championship or the High School National Championship. They will have a chicken fried steak dinner Friday, June 12th, which is tomorrow, Manteca Moose Lodge. They're also having a 50-50 raffle. All the proceeds are going to help these kids get to Kentucky. So if you're interested in that, make sure you head out there Friday, June 12th, Manteca Moose Lodge. If you have any questions, you can check out the SJ Bassmasters on Instagram. They have their flyers and stuff on there. Or you can get a hold of Cam at 209-502-0258 or Kimmy 925-216-4013. They'll give you all the information that you'll need to help get out and support the San Joaquin Bassmasters. Let's talk about the In Deep on the Delta weekly drawing that we're having through the month of June here to celebrate 15,000 subscribers. Hopefully you guys have been keeping up with that. Now remember, last week our prize pack was 2 custom-made baits by local bait makers. We've got a custom-made Mischief Rat from Sack Pig Baits. Thank you so much, Michael, for donating that. We also have a custom handmade glider bait from Delta Gliders, striped bass bait. That's from Sal. I want to thank you guys. And the winner for those 2 custom-made baits is IB Prime. IB Prime. So IB, why don't you hit me up at my Gmail, scooper9561032. Hit me up, let me know how I can get a hold of you, and we'll make sure you get those baits in your hand. Let's talk about what I have for this week's drawing. We'll start off with some baits from G-Rat, Garrett Dixon over at G-Rat. He's given me a couple of packs of his Dixie Flip and a mixer. These are plastics. We've got a frog, one of his new frogs from G-Rat Baits. Good colors, good Delta colors, good stuff here. We've got Michael from Bait Chuckin'. He's got some plastics that he's donated. Thank you very much, Michael. We've got Adrian from CC Baits. He's got some of his custom-made plastics, worms, trailers, things like that. All Delta related, all stuff that you can use here in the Delta or at any of the local motherlode lakes. Marlon Carpenter from over at Crappie Closet Baits. I've got a whole box loaded with a couple hundred of his custom crappie baits. You'll never have to buy another crappie bait in your life. This is also in the package. I've got a spinner bait from Blade Runner Tackle. We've in the right color, chartreuse and white. Also got another pack of plastics from Breaking Bass. All good stuff, all stuff that you can use, like I say, here on the Delta or any of the motherlode lakes. And I want to thank all of the local bait makers who have supported In Deep on the Delta the last couple of years. I've made a lot of good friends. All you guys are great people. Support your local bait makers, support your local tackle shops. We say that all the time, but it's very important. Keep these guys in business and keep them making baits and selling baits. Again, all you have to do is hit me up in the comments. My Gmail is scooper9561032, @gmail.com, and you are automatically in next week's drawing. Again, if you've sent in anything in the last 3 weeks or so, you're already in the drawing. Thank you guys. Thanks so much. Let's get into what's going on, the weekly reports, and how the fishing has been. We're going to start off with a report from Clear Lake. And I talked to Dave this week. Last week, I mentioned that there had been a algae bloom that kind of bloomed. It's kind of dissipating right now. The water's looking better, but Dave did mention that they're going to get some 100-degree weather. We may have another bloom up there, so you might have to call Clear Lake Outdoors and get the local or the up-to-date, up-to-date lake conditions, especially when we start getting this 100-degree weather, which we're all expecting in the next week or so. Should kick the bite in. But anyhow, Dave's reporting that the PM bite has been very good for topwaters. They're throwing frogs and buzz baits. Midday, you're going to have to slow down a little bit. You're going to fish chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, and flip them, but the fishing is good. The local guys that know what they're doing, they're still picking up the 30-pound bags. It's not taking quite as much for some of the weekend tournaments to produce a winning bag, but they're still getting heavy sacks. Dave's been going out after work every day. He's catching fish. He says every day he seems to pick up at least one fish in the 5-pound class. So I think if you go up there, you're a weekend angler, you put one foot in front of the other, you're probably going to catch plenty of fish, and at the end of the day, I'd look for that 15 to maybe 20-pound sack if you're counting numbers. So that's Clear Lake Outdoors. Make sure you give them a call. Their number is listed in under the remarks every week, along with all the other people that I talk about. You can find their numbers in the remarks. We're going to get into stripers now. I talked to Jeff Soo Hoo from Soo Hoo Sport Fishing. He just picked up and he has moved his operation every year about this time of year when the stripers start moving back to the bay. Jeff runs a 6-pack party boat, so he's going to be out in the bay. If you guys are looking to go out, maybe get off out of the heat and do a trip in the bay, Jeff is working out of Emeryville Sport Fishing. So if you're looking for a halibut trip, a striper trip, a rockfish trip, maybe a combo trip, Jeff will do anything you want. That's the nice thing. He's running a 6-pack boat. You go out there and you need to talk to Jeff about maybe doing a half day of halibut fishing, half day of striper fishing. If they're there, he can arrange that for you. He can take you out and get rockfish, whatever you want to do. He'll tailor the trip to your party's needs. He's fishing out of Emeryville Sport Fishing. Just Google up their website, and he is boy. I can't pronounce the name of this, but I believe the name of his boat is the Heisen Strug, S-T-R-U-G, Heisen Strug 6-pack party boat. It's a 30-foot boat. That's what they're fishing off of, and they're listed in the Emeryville Sport Fishing log there. You can see what they're doing, and where they're going out for and having a lot of fun. Or you can get a hold of Jeff at Soo Hoo Sport Fishing. As Jeff was leaving, he reported that the stripers were doing very well. He was catching fish, had to move around a little bit more from him, but there were still fish in the system. He was fishing out west, and he did say that the fish had been moving out there. Now last week, like I said, the minute that I said the fish are on their way out and it's time to give up the stripers and start fishing for bass, I got a tip from Alfonso. He had been out, went out to New Hope Landing. He was fishing up north, and he said, "Hey, plenty of stripers in here, Steve. We're fishing top waters." He got some beautiful fish, nice size, nice quality fish. Topwater baits, running around, fishing all of the different sloughs up there. He said they're all over. Not in big numbers, but I think he ended up catching about 10 stripers, and he also wound up catching about 15 largemouth bass. That's fishing up north. Thanks for that report, Alfonso, and guess I kind of steered you wrong last week. Thanks for putting me on track. Also, I talked to Joe from Core Fishing. Joe hasn't been out, but he came back out. And, usually Joe's catching all the stripers, and maybe I'm, working more on largemouth bass. Well, Joe went out, had a tough time with stripers, but he said the largemouth bass were doing just fine. In reverse of that, this week I've had a pretty darn good week of striper fishing. Don't know why, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. And we'll talk about what Joe did in just a minute too. So it's kind of a reversal for Joe and I. But Doc Talk, everyone I've been talking to at Paradise Point that's coming in, they have stripers. Most of the guys are using live bluegill. Easy to catch right now. They're going out, they're drifting live bluegill, and they're catching near limits of fish. They're not big fish. A lot of shorts, but a lot of fish in that 18 to, I'll say 22-inch size class. A few bigger ones mixed in. The bigger fish are coming to the guys that are throwing wake baits and topwaters. When I've been out throwing topwaters, primarily walking baits and a few glide baits, Nathan and I have been getting some really nice blowups. We've been catching fish up to about 5 or 6 pounds. It doesn't matter where we have been. We're fishing primarily from Paradise Point out to Frank's Track. The fish are not schooled up. I still believe the big schools are heading out to the bay, but there's plenty of fish in the system. If you want to go out and catch fish, stripers, right now you can catch fish. They are definitely holding in faster moving water. If you go out around Frank's Track, you go to the flooded islands, you look where they're dumping water in or out of the island in that fast water. That's where the stripers will be. They're also holding to points. You get that little current break on a point, you throw topwater over that point, you throw out, maybe make 3 or 4 casts, you go on to your next point. They are not in big schools, they're in pods. You might find 2, 3, 4 fish where you get a couple of bites on one little point, but generally it's a one and done thing. But if you keep moving one foot in front of the other, you're going to go out and have some fun with these stripers. And right now they are super aggressive. When you're throwing the topwater baits, they're coming up and just smacking these things. So go out and have some fun with some stripers. Let's get into the largemouth bass. And I think to start off, I've got another special guest, Rob Cloutier. Again, he's going to talk about what went on at the Bass Hole Tournament. He'll give you guys some information on what he thinks is going to go on in the next week. So let's turn it over to Rob. We'll check out what Rob has to say, and then I'll get into what I've been doing and what I've been, maybe some tournament information and stuff like that that's happening here on the Delta. So take it away, Rob. All right, Rob, so how many boats did you have today? What did it take to win? What was the general fishing like today? And maybe you can give us that information and then talk about what people should expect coming out this week.
Yeah, we saw a total of 44 boats today. Kind of split down the middle again with that high roller, low roller option we got rolling on there. The bite was kind of all over the board there. A lot of 16, 17 pound bags. Took 20 on the low roller side, 22 on the high roller side. Big fish on both sides, 7.5, 7.25 on both sides. So some decent fish being brought in, yeah. And some okay bags being brought in. Again, a lot of those 16, 17 pounds. I think it took 17 to get a check on both sides. So yeah, it's shaping up to do really well. I think that last moon we had just a huge spawn. I'm seeing fry all over the river. I'm catching bucks that are spawned out. I'm catching the females I saw today, the bigger ones, they look like they were spawned out. So it looks like the majority of the fish spawned in that full moon. I am still seeing fish on beds. I am still seeing fish paired up, rolling on each other, fry everywhere, fry garters. You know, I'm targeting flats, I'm targeting spawning staging areas where these fish can relate to rest and then pick up. So I'm picking up fish on drop shot, Senko, jig, chatterbait. This week it's really been a chatterbait bite for everybody is what I've heard. More moving than anything. The flip bite kind of disappeared. And then that whopper plopper and that buzzbait. Yeah. So worms are always a key player here. You know, you want to catch numbers, throw worms. You want to catch a bigger fish, throw that frog, throw that buzzbait, throw that chatterbait.
Any tides they should be looking for?
I favor the high tide when I'm flipping, but lately I've been favoring that low tide. I can see the fish, they position themselves in these little holes, and I can just access them better, and I feel like I'm catching better fish during that low tide.
Are you doing any topwater during the low tide?
Yes, but only in the evening or morning, not middle of the day. I'm typically not middle of the day topwater kind of guy.
How about if the wind's picked up?
Wind's picking up, I'm throwing that chatterbait.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys heard it from Rob. We'll get back to the regular scheduled programming. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Yep.
And I'm going to go out tomorrow and see if I can find him.
Yep. Also, July, I think, 11th is our next tournament, evening tournament. So we're going out at 2 p.m., back in at 8 p.m. out of Holland Riverside Marina.
That'll be a fun one. Check out Rob at the Bass Hole if you guys need the latest information. So, Rob, I know you're going to head out to Berryessa tomorrow. Family trip.
Oh, yeah.
Let me know if you do any fishing.
Always.
All right. Let's go. All right, you got Rob's 2 cents. Let's talk about some of the other tournaments that have been coming down the pipe here in the last week. And what I have seen, and I'm not going to get into, all the particulars because it really doesn't matter. What I have seen is that the winning weights have been, they're right around that, maybe a little low this week. I think the Wednesday night tournament last week was won with 19 pounds. As Rob said, I think the bass hole tournament was, low 20s, right around 20 pounds. The Monday night tournament was a little slow. I think that was won with 15 pounds. I know Rob fished that. He had 14 pounds and was in second place. I got a report from the Delta Bass Club. I think I didn't get their winning weight, but according to Chris, they were just, so-so. Not great, not bad. Everybody's catching fish. Like to see bigger fish, but everyone's catching fish. But all in all, the top weights are right around that 20, 22 pound range. But what's going on as a definite upswing is those people in the mid-level, the guys that may not be cashing a check, but everybody seems to be putting a 5-fish limit in the boat. And that 5-fish limit 3 or 4 weeks ago could have ranged from 7 or 8 pounds to maybe 10 or 11 pounds. Now everybody that's putting in that 5-fish limit is getting a more consistent 10 to 13 or 14 pound limit. They may not be cashing a check, but they're getting fish. Everybody seems to be pretty much close to limit fishing, and they're having fun. Remember, those 2.5 to 3 pound fish are a lot of fun for weekend anglers. What I have found is the morning bite and the AM bite for me the last week has not been good, but we have hit some of those days where I've been out and the temperature dropped 15 degrees one night. Nathan and I froze our tails off because we didn't bring coats. That shows you how smart we are. You should always have a coat out on the Delta, but it was 85, 90 degrees, when we left home, and by the time we started fishing the evening bite, it was temperature dropped about 15 degrees and it was a cold wind. Turned the fishing off. We're getting fish. We're getting 10 or 12 fish an outing, but we're not getting the big largemouth bites that we should be getting, and we're throwing baits that should attract some fish. So with that being said, we talked about Joe from Core Fishing. He came out and he did well. He basically said put one foot in front of the other. He fished everything that we're all fishing, from chatterbaits to topwaters to worms and blades. Fished from basically Ladd's or Paradise Point to Frank's Track. Never found one place or one pattern. It's just like Rob said, you just go out there, you look at what's in front of you, and if it looks like that's a worm place or it looks like it's a place you have to throw a topwater or a chatterbait, you do that and the fish will be on them. There is no one pattern, and I have really found that to be true. The fish are holding around toolies. A lot of the folks that are catching the better fish are fishing offshore because the big females are still coming out there in post spawn. They're not uptight anymore. 3 weeks ago I was talking about finding a foot of water with a patch of toolies and flipping up in that thing, and you're going to catch those big fish. Those fish are either probably post spawn right now. They're out off into that first ledge or just outside of the first weed bed or flat, and they're in that 4 to 8, maybe 10 feet of water. They're recovering, and my prediction is as this warm weather comes, the AM bite and the PM bite will start to get better and better, and these bigger fish during those low light levels I think are going to move into the shallows. I'm going to still be pushing that topwater bite, and I'm looking to catch some bigger fish. I'm also looking for those bigger females to be closer to recovering from post spawn, and they're going to get more and more aggressive. There'll still be fish holding in that deep water, but the fish, those big females, when they get hungry, they're going to come in, they're going to be in the troughs, they're going to be under surface vegetation for the punchers. And by the way, punching just hasn't been paying off for most people. I talked to Rob. He talks to a lot of the tournament anglers, and no one's really saying that punching is doing great for them. And the frog fishing, a lot of bites, but a lot of refusals, and just not the frog fishing that we're used to yet. But I think as this weather warms up, the frog fishing is going to get better. But long story short, these fish that are the big fish that are in the in the deep water, when they want to eat, they're coming into these troughs, they're coming in, they're going to post up around cover, they're going to post up underneath surface vegetation, and when they're ready, they're going to come out, and we're going to start seeing more of these 6, 7, and 8 pound fish, and probably some double digits in the next couple of weeks. Until then, you're going to have to just work with the numbers. If you want numbers, drop shot and worms are catching fish all day long. I've had mixed success with a chatterbait. We're getting lots of fish on small fluke style jerk baits or twitch baits. Those will catch you a lot of fish, and occasionally that 2 to 2.5 pounder. Flipping any type of bronco bug or small bait that imitates a crayfish, you're also going to catch fish. If you want that big fish, you can throw a bluegill imitation, because these things are picking up the bluegills, and the stripers are really chasing the bluegills. They're having a blast with them. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching once again. Get out there, have some fun. Don't worry about catching the small fish. Gear down, use lighter equipment. The smaller fish will be fun to catch, and you're going to end up hooking up with a couple of big fish sooner or later. So thanks a lot. See you guys on the river. Good luck.